Ladies and gentlemen, we're back on the live stream. No Sunday service yesterday. Happy Easter. Happy late Easter to everyone. But there was no Sunday service yesterday. I wanted to give y'all a live stream. Obviously, there was no UFC this past Saturday. So we didn't really got much to recap. Not a lot to talk about. There is some MMA news that we could maybe talk about throughout the course of the live stream. But I thought, why not? You know, we already gave out my early picks for UFC Kansas City. We could go through the card again, do a little live breakdown, a little question and answer type of stuff throughout the chat. We got a nice little fight night card here. We got 14 fights to look through, to break down. One fight kind of fell out. If you know what happened, Hassanzada got arrested, I believe. So that fight is off, but he did get a replacement opponent. Evan Elder's now taking on Gage Young. So other than that, the card has stayed pretty much the same since I gave the early picks video. Now, I haven't done my full due diligence on all these fights, but I have watched some film on the ones that I was kind of on the fence on. Gave me a little bit of clarity into stuff. The DFS plays haven't been put in yet because Better Picks has not dropped their lines yet. So hopefully they drop them either later tonight or tomorrow, and then I'll put those in. I'll send them out to the Homofied Picks Premium members on Winnable because, as you remember, UFC 314, we're coming off the absolutely insane night, sweeping the board. 100x payout on Better Picks, 20x payout on Underdog, cashed all 4 of the 2-pick entries. So hopefully we bring back some more cash at UFC Kansas City. I think the last UFC Kansas City card, I was there, which was about 2 years ago. Yeah, it was about 2 years ago when Holloway beat Arnold Allen. I was there with my buddy Nolan. So I got some history with the UFC Kansas City card going to there. I won't be there this Saturday, but it is a great atmosphere there. They got some good people. So let's get into the chats, and then we'll probably I guess I'll ask the chat if what they want to do. Do I want me to start with the first fight of the night and move up to the main event, or maybe we could just go by whatever chat pops up and then we could dive into that one. So I'm going to throw this right here just so we can figure out which fight we want to talk about. We'll pull it up on screen, but let me know in the chat which fight you want me to talk about, kind of break down. That's the good thing about live streams. We don't got to go in order. We can just kind of go with what the chat is, because priority is whoever shows up during the live. I'm going to give you guys what you guys want. So let's get through the chat real quick. What up, Yoel? How we doing? Prates gang. Let's go. Fight week, baby. Let's go. Happy Monday. Happy fight week. Let's crush DFS. Let's do it again, brother. Anthony Smith have a shot. Retirement fight in your hometown, big dog. We'll talk about that one. Okay. TJ wants the main event. Suze wants the main event. I'm saying Suze, but it's Money Ooze. Run it top to bottom. Top to bottom. 3 for top to bottom. Yo, hey, Jav. Just happy it's fight week. Same here, bro. Same here, Riff Raff. Any bet that's a lock. I'm going to tell you right now before I hop into these breakdowns, there's 2 chats I'm just not going to answer. Number 1 is asking me what the parlay is. I'm just not going to give you an answer. Number 2 is asking me what the lock is or what my most confident pick is. Okay, that's just it's a dumb question. It's a dumb chat to throw on here. I'm just not going to answer it. You could type it in and, I'll probably just tell you no, but you're not going to get a real answer. Ryan, what's going on, brother? Chelsea the Blob Chandler. Dude, I was watching her tape today. It is brutal, man. It is brutal. Brutal watch, and she is really bad. Top to bottom. Okay, I guess we're just going to go top to bottom, man, because that's what most people have been saying. Before you break down the card, can you give your opinion on DDP apparent injury? And if true, who do you match Hamza with? Sure. Why not? Why not? We'll get into that, and then we'll allow a couple more people to come in here before we break down the card, but this is probably the only one that I'll talk about. My opinion on the DDP apparent injury is, from what I've heard, DDP is injured, and he's not going to be able to fight on International Fight Week, and he's going to be fighting probably in fall. Now, I'm not really sure why the UFC needs to do an interim championship. in this case, it doesn't make any sense, honestly, because they didn't do an interim championship with Shavkat and Ian Garry when Bilal had just won the title back in July. It was July. And they were fighting in December. They didn't do an interim championship there. So it doesn't make any sense why they would do an interim championship for, in this case, when DDP just won in February, and then the next fight would be in June. That'd be, 4 months? There's no reason for them to do an interim championship. They could easily just do a number one contenders fight like they did with Shavkat and Ian Garry. Now, who should they do that with? It's probably going to be Hamzat, and I guess it's going to be Kyle Bahalio. I don't understand why Imavov hasn't said anything about this. That doesn't make any sense to me, because Imavov would probably be my favorite to get the next title shot, just because he's the guy coming off a knockout win over Israel Adesanya. I think Kyle Bahalio is really good, and he's got a lot of hype with the fighting nerds, and he's undefeated in the UFC. He's looked amazing, but I think Imavov deserves it over Bahalio. Now, Bahalio versus Hamzat, it's a great fight. So is Imavov versus Hamzat. I think they're both great fights. But why hasn't Imavov said anything? Because he should be the guy that's like chirping everyone, saying, I just knocked out Israel Adesanya, one of the best middleweights of all time, to do it. I should be getting the next title shot, or I should be fighting for a number one contenders fight. So honestly, I don't understand why they would do an interim championship, considering the circumstances that DDP just defended his title in February. I don't know what the point of that is. You could easily just do a number one contender fight like they did with Shavkat and Ian Garry. If they do one, that says a lot, but I think DDP will probably be back in the fall. And I think that just gives a little bit more clarity as to who the number one contender is. Because Hamzat did just beat Robert Whittaker, cool. But if he's got to face a guy like Imavov or Kyle Bahalio, those are two really tough fights. Both guys in their prime. And if one of them beats Hamzat, then that just gives them way more hype going into a fight with DDP. So that's all I got to say about that. Don't think there's any real reason they need to do an interim championship. But let's hop into this breakdown, boys and girls. Hopefully, that image on my screen of the Wi-Fi bar is not counting correctly, and hopefully it's giving me full bars, because I don't want any connection issues before I get into this. I'm going to pop a little Chino in. Top shelf. Chino in the top shelf for the kids, where grandma hides the peanut butter. And we'll get into this breakdown. If you have any questions or concerns about my breakdown, I guess I'll kind of give my breakdown and then kind of see what you guys think about it. I'll address some chats, and then we can move on. I think that's probably the best way to go about it. Ian Garry, Carlos Prates. So this is one I was watching a lot of film on today. I was thinking about it a lot. I was in my car for a lot, driving from Florida back to Wisconsin again. So a lot of time to think, especially about this fight. And I look at Carlos Prates, and I've been high on this guy ever since he fought on the Contender Series, like before he actually fought on the Contender Series. I went back and rewatched my breakdown of him before he fought on the Contender Series. And I'm like, if you kickbox with this guy, you're going to lose. That's what I said about his opponent. And that's pretty much what I thought about every opponent that he's had. The guys he's going to face. It's just what it comes down to. So I think Carlos Prates is a real special talent. He's got a lot of momentum. Ian Garry, he has a lot of talent, but I don't think his talent ceiling is as high as Carlos Prates. Now, do I think Ian Garry is probably the better overall mixed martial artist? Maybe if you're just talking skill-wise, but have we seen Carlos Prates on his back getting ragdolled on the ground? No. The only guy that has taken him down was Mitch Ramirez in the Contender Series. And what happened? He got back up to his feet and he knocked him out. I think there's something special with Carlos Prates. I think stylistically, it's going to be tough for Ian to get takedowns on Carlos unless he's shooting blast doubles. and he's just not really a blastable guy. And he's not even a grappler per se. He's a striker that wants to stay at range and pick you apart, use his speed. Grappling is not his normal game. It's just not. He's improved it a lot, and he's always finding ways to take advantage of his opponents. And that's really the only scare I have in this fight is, Ian could maybe have something up his sleeve where he looks at Carlos Prates, finds a weakness that other opponents haven't been able to exploit, and he's just going to go for that. What he did to Shavkat didn't really impress me, honestly. He kind of avoided a fight for most fight. He avoided the fight in a way that he didn't want to give Shavkat any chances to finish it. So I'm saying, when Shavkat was trying to strike with him, Ian's not really engaging in the striking. He's just chipping away with some kicks. He's skirting around the cage with his footwork. And then they were in the clinch for a lot of the fight. Now, honestly, that fight completely came down to one punch. I watched back the fight today. It was pretty clear to me that Ian Garry won rounds 3 and rounds 5. Shavkat won rounds 1, 2, and 4. But round 1, nothing really happened outside of one right hand from Shavkat. Shavkat landed one right hand that landed pretty flush on Ian Garry. Outside of that, all it was them trading clinch control. So pretty much he lost that fight on one punch. Now, I actually thought Ian Garry was majorly disrespected in that fight because he was like plus 250, plus 300 underdog to Shavkat. And I'm like, Shavkat's not that good. He's really not that good. Like, he's good, but he's not some guy that's just going to blow through everybody in the division. He's going to be competitive with a lot of guys in the division. So I was pretty high on Ian Garry making that fight closer. Shavkat was also injured. I see you in the chat there, Irikawa. He was injured. He had a torn MCL in the fight. So, Shavkat might not have been at his best. But this is a totally different stylistic matchup to where I think Carlos Prates has all the upside in the world to go out here and knock out Ian Garry. What's Ian Garry going to do? Like, when I look at an Ian Garry win, I think it's probably a very boring fight. It would have to be some very boring fight, or it'd have to be some type of got you type of submission where, he just makes Carlos pay with some type of mistake, gets on his back and chokes him out. Now, we've seen Garry in those positions with Shavkat, with MVP, and he couldn't finish him. So is he going to finish it on Carlos Prates? Back to life. There we go. Hopefully we're back. Let me know in the chat if we're good. Connection is my connection that bad right now? All right, we're back. Thank you, Riff Raff. We're back. So essentially, I look at this one, and I think Carlos Prates at plus 110. I think you're kind of getting the best of it, man. When I look at an Ian Garry win, I think it's probably going to be a boring decision, or it's a got you type of submission. When I look at a Carlos Prates win, and obviously, Ian could knock out Carlos Prates because Carlos, there are some times when I watch Carlos Prates and he's not a very effective striker moving backwards. So that is one concern I got to keep in the back of the head is like, I'm watching him against Trevin Giles and Trevin's, unleashing 4 or 5 punch combinations and Carlos is just kind of like hands high, just like moving backwards in a straight line. That's not really good. But I also think Carlos Prates took that fight like so lightly. He actually came out in like a Muay Thai stance where he was like tapping his lead leg. You can't see it, but I'm doing it with my leg. He's tapping his lead leg like a true Muay Thai guy. It was almost like he went in there and he like wanted Joe Rogan to like see him doing a true Muay Thai stance and like bring it up in his podcast or something like that. Like it was that blatant that he was like trying to show off a Muay Thai stance and he lost round 1 like pretty badly. And then in round 2, he comes out not in a Muay Thai stance and then fucking knocks him out. So I don't know if Carlos Prates was like just fucking with the guy, but he didn't look good in that fight until he got the knockout. And then after that, he just has fought completely differently. He's kind of wide stance, a little bit heavy on the lead leg, but like not enough to where if it gets kicked, he's falling over. His hands are just so he hits so hard. He hits so hard. And I just think he's an elite talent. So I'm going to go with Carlos Prates, man. I think Carlos Prates gets it done. I don't really see the cardio being a huge deal in this one because Ian's not a guy that pushes some heavy pace. Like, he's not a guy that weaponizes his cardio. He's a guy that likes to slow down the fight and outpoint you, out-technical you. So I'm going to go with Carlos Prates, boys. I'm going to go with Carlos Prates. Let's see the chats. Man, this is really more glazing for the guy who took out Magny with a phantom skim milk punch. Prates is not that good. Ian is. Y'all must have forgot. I mean, he's good. I'm not saying he's not good, but Carlos Prates is pretty damn good too, bro. Pretty damn good. He's not an exciting fighter. He's not an exciting fighter, but he's a very effective fighter. He's going to get a lot of wins in the UFC. He's definitely going to be lighting up a cig after the win. Very true. Between rounds, Prates, bring up the water bottle, ice, and an ashtray. Unfortunately for Prates, he can't go out in the Apex parking lot and smoke a cig before his fight. He's probably got to stay in the arena for a couple hours before. So maybe that does mess with him. Maybe it does. Because before his fight with Neil Magny, he was out in the Apex parking lot smoking a cig about 10 minutes before he walked out. So that probably helped him a little bit. You can't do that in an arena unless you're really running out. Unless you're running. What do you think about Prates sub? Bro, I saw something when I was watching his YouTube channel, and he was really looking to jump on the back of Ian Garry. And I had that in the back of my mind when I'm watching Ian Garry fight. And when Ian was fighting Shavkat, and they were in the clinch all the time, Shavkat's looking for these double leg takedowns, and Ian's kind of giving him his back. That could be a spot where Carlos Prates wants to jump on the back, and he was jumping on the back while his training partner was still standing. So I don't really see Prates going for that, but maybe if there's an opportunity for it, maybe he goes for it. Prates by body shots on the fence. That's one thing that Ian has probably the answer for. Ian's Muay Thai has gotten a lot better. He uses his knees very well, and that was kind of what he wanted to do against Shavkat. So I don't know that Prates is going to like beat him up in the clinch with knees and stuff. I feel like he has a shot at sub since Ian Garry going to wrestle. That is true. That is true. Why is Prates an underdog? Is it a trap? It's just because Ian is a very respected fighter on the books. I think the only time he's been a dog was against Shavkat, who's an even more respected fighter. And Prates is on the KO streak, but you know, his level of competition is kind of similar to Ian, but Ian, it's probably just a little bit of recency bias on Ian almost beating Shavkat. Maybe, I don't know. Good overall skill set though. I mean, he's a great fighter. You can't take anything against him. Ian couldn't finish Neil. I know styles make fights, but come on now. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much a finish though, to be honest. He was a corpse. Who I got winning? I got Prates winning right now, and I don't know that I'm gonna change it up because I pretty much watched all the film that I need to watch. But for now, I'm gonna take Prates, and I probably won't change it. Ian Garry's in. Okay, who from the Fighting Nerds will be first champ? Well, if Bahalio is fighting Hamza, it might be Bahalio, bro. Problem I see with Garry here is he likes being on the back foot. You got to back up Prates if you want to beat him in the striking. 100%, dude. That's what I was thinking too. You know, if you want to beat Prates, you kind of gotta really pressure him. And Ian's not really a pressure fighter, so Ian by decision. Could see that. I think this is a setup spot, much like how Lopez was last week. Ian by decision. I wouldn't blame you if you took Ian by decision. I mean, that's probably the way it goes. He'll say he won the fight. Cook the DFS yet? I'm hungry. Hey, we're gonna be cooking real soon once Better Picks drops their lines. All right, let's move on. Co-main event. Got to give some respect to the man Anthony Smith here. This is what his 60th pro fight. It's gonna be his 60th pro fight. That's insane. Compared to 24 for Zhang Mingyang, but Zhang's still what? 20, 25? What's his exact age? 26. I mean, Zhang Mingyang's a huge favorite here. I don't know that anybody in the chat is going to be, calling for an Anthony Smith upset. And I'm not really either. But at the same time, like, who has Zhang Mingyang beaten? They're pretty much bums. Ozzy Diaz and Brandon Ribeiro, they're pretty much bums. I know Ribeiro has picked up a couple wins, but, Ribeiro can beat a lot of guys on any given night. Obviously, he didn't against Zhang Mingyang. Ozzy Diaz picked up a win, but I don't think Ozzy Diaz is very good. Anthony Smith, at this point in his career, is obviously not what he once was. But the thing with Anthony Smith is he's not a chinny fighter. He's not chinny. Like, he's not going to just go out there, get hit by Zhang Mingyang once and go down and, like, go to sleep. He's not a chinny guy. He's a guy that's there to be hit, and he's going to get hit, but he's not going to just give up after the first big shot he takes. Now, that might change because Zhang Mingyang, I don't know that I've ever seen, outside of what, like the Zhile Zhang guy, the one boxer, I don't know that I've ever seen a 6'2" Chinese guy that's like built like the mountain tiger here in Zhang Mingyang. They must have pumped this dude with some serious roids because Chinese men are not usually 6'2" and built like that. Just putting it out there, but it's a possibility. Zhang Mingyang, actually very impressed with his striking. His timing on his strikes looks really good. His speed, really good. He's going to be a lot faster than Anthony Smith. Anthony's going to struggle. He's going to struggle in this one, especially early. His only real chance is to try to extend it, try to tire out Zhang Mingyang and take over as the fight goes on. He's going to have to get some sort of grappling going in this one to get him to tire out. That's what it comes down to. So I'm going to take Zhang Mingyang for the pick. I don't think anybody's going to argue with that one. But he's like minus, what, 560? You just get this exactly. Minus 525. Minus 525. I'm personally not going to be parlaying that. I don't think there's much meat on the bone there. Inside the distance for Zhang Mingyang. It's not going to load, of course. Come on, bro. All right, cool. It's not going to load. But I assume Zhang Mingyang inside the distance is probably going to be like minus 200, minus 250, something like that. It's a setup fight for Zhang Mingyang, but Anthony Smith has spoiled the party many a times before. Did it to Vitor Petrino. I don't know. I still don't know why Vitor Petrino shot a takedown on Anthony Smith. Made absolutely no sense. If you beat up Anthony Smith in round one, his chances of pulling off some type of upset victory go down significantly because if he's beaten up, he tends to wear down, tends to slow down, his confidence goes down. That's probably what happens. Zhang Mingyang probably beats him up in round one. If not, gets a finish. And then in round two, that's where the tide will either turn or it will just continue. So Zhang Mingyang is the pick here. I don't think we need to go over that one too much because it's not a very controversial one. So we'll move on. Giga Chikadze and David Onama. This is a great fight. And I'm a little bit skeptical, but I don't think I should be. I don't think I should be because I think David Onama has been somewhat the goods for quite some time. And he just hasn't really gotten like a a real high-level matchup to where we could see it play out. And honestly, I look at Giga at 38. Is he 38? At 36. Okay, I guess he's a couple years younger than I thought. But he's 36, man. And I just don't really see too much from Giga at this point where he's going to be able to contend with these young, athletic freaks. Like he's so dependent on being able to out kickbox you that if he can't do that, he's fucked. Like he has no grappling. He does have some decent speed for his age at 36. Obviously, his kicks to the body, to the head, even to the legs are really nice, but he's not a high volume guy either. He's really not. Like you would expect a kickboxer to be really high volume. He's rarely ever eclipsing more than like 60, even sometimes 50 significant strikes in a 3-round fight. And when you put him up against a guy like David Onama, who's going to bring the pressure, who's going to bring a lot of volume, who is pretty durable, who has good scrambles, good wrestling, good overall game in his bag. Like, I think it's a tough fight for Giga. I think David will probably march him down, put the pressure on, kind of like Arnold Allen did. And then throughout the fight, Giga's going to slow down. David Onama is going to take over, maybe get a late, second, third round finish or just a decision victory. But I think David Onama takes it, man. I don't know that anyone in the comments or in the chat is going to have a differing opinion. I would love to hear a differing opinion for a Giga Chikadze argument, but I just look at this fight and I don't think Giga has the overall skill set to deal with a young, athletic, hungry David Onama in this scenario. Like, look at Giga's wins in the UFC. Alex Caceres, not a very dangerous kickboxer, does have some grappling, but he didn't use it in the fight. He pretty much just kickboxed with Giga, and it was pretty competitive, but Giga won. He lost to Calvin Kattar, got pretty much exposed in that one. He knocked out Edson Barbosa, but that was like the peak of Giga Chikadze. And Barbosa, great kickboxer in his own right, but Barbosa was on a bit of a skid at that point. I guess he wasn't. He was on a 2-fight winning streak. But honestly, I went into that fight. I remember that fight, and I was like, Giga's going to beat this guy up. He's going to beat him up because Barbosa is there to kickbox with you, and if you're just going to kickbox with Giga Chikadze, more often than not, you're probably going to lose. You're going to have to bring a lot of pressure his way. That's something that David Onama does. So I'm kind of thinking David Onama wins this one. Let's see what the chat's got to say. What do you think about their IQ, though? That is somewhat of my worry with Onama is the IQ. Like, I think with his athleticism, with his skill set, with his durability, with his cardio, he should win this fight. But the IQ is not exactly the best. I think it's getting a little bit better. He does kind of throw himself in there to being hit at times, so maybe Giga could catch him with something and put his lights out. But I think even if Giga hurts him with something early, David, he's just going to keep walking through it, and he's going to, come back and get a victory. Since Giga got outboxed by Kattar, hasn't been the same. I agree. Arguing for Giga, he's by far the best striker Onama's faced. And Onama has been hurting like every fight. Onama doesn't grapple often. I don't know. This one's tough. That's one thing too. Like, I think if Onama grapples early, he can make it look very easily. He could win this one very easily if he grapples early. I don't know how, but David Onama always finds himself in these grappling exchanges, but he doesn't shoot that many takedowns. Like, he doesn't land that many takedowns. Against Roberto Romero, he got one takedown, but he was landed up on top for a good amount of the fight. Jonathan Pierce landed 5 on him, but Onama was able to reverse him 5 times. So he's in these grappling scenarios. Even against Gabriel Santos, got taken down twice, but Onama was in control for more than Gabriel Santos was. So he's kind of out grappling these guys that want to take him down, and that's where his narrative of being a solid grappler comes from. But I look at this one, I'm like, David, take him down. Take him down. Take down the kickboxer. You make this look easy. Because I think his grappling is good enough to out-grapple Giga. So I think if he has the fight IQ, Onama should be able to get this one. What? Oh, my God. He's got some good kicks. That's about it. Also, he's been out a while. Giga no longer has it. Really sharp in the first round, but slows down. Yeah, dude, that was the 100% the tail in the Arnold Allen fight. Giga looked solid in round one. He looked sharp. He looked fast. His footwork looked good. And then we get into round two. He's just too slow. He's just too slow. He's too tired. His footwork wasn't as good. Arnold Allen was able to cut him off, land bigger shots, and won the last two rounds. So, yeah, feel that stress from Hard Rock App today? Not me. Not on it. Let's move on, boys. We got Michel, Pereira, Abus, Magomedov. This will be a controversial one this week, I'm sure. But honestly, I think it's somewhat of a binary fight. Like Abus, I've kind of been an Abus believer, but at the same time, like I know his limitations. Okay, like he's gonna beat a lot of these guys that are outside the top 15. He's good enough to do that because he's a good enough overall fighter. He's a solid kickboxer who is big for the division. He has wrestling if he needs to go to it. He just pulled off a nice submission in round 3 in his last fight. I was big on him there against Bruno. But the limitations are his cardio isn't that great. His chin isn't that great. He gets hit pretty clean a lot. And that's really the concern. Like the way he looked against Bruno, I think it was round 2, when Bruno started to land a little bit and he was just like wobbling all over the place. And then in round 3, he starts to get some takedowns. And I'm like, well, you probably should have been doing that earlier. Against Michel Pereira, you know, who has really held him down and like worn him out that way? Look at through his record. The only guy that has done that to him is really his last fight against Fluffy Hernandez. I guess maybe you could go all the way back to the Tristan Connolly fight, but even Connolly wasn't even taking him down. He was just ending up in top position because Michel Pereira like didn't take that fight seriously at all. Like he was just out there doing whatever the fuck he wanted to, and it didn't work out for him. He was on a huge win streak, then lost to Fluffy. I thought he had Fluffy hurt in round 1, and what did he get that sub attempt off in round 2? I think he probably pulled guillotine or something like an idiot. That's what happens when you get tired against a wrestler. You just start pulling guillotine, hoping you're going to get something out of nothing. But before that, 3 wins in a row all in round 1. 2 of them were submissions. So I think Pereira can dead him in the first. Like, that's just what it comes down to. If I'm going to bet on this fight, it's either going to be Michel Pereira round 1 or probably nothing. Like, if I'm going to take a side, it's probably Michel Pereira round 1 or nothing. Because outside of round 1, do I want Pereira out there kickboxing with Magomedov after he survived the round, gained some confidence in this wild striker? Probably not. Like, Pereira has won decisions before. It was at 170, but he has won decisions. Like, he's not a complete gas bag where he gets into round 2 and he's falling off a cliff. But obviously, he's more effective in round 1 because he's very explosive, very athletic. And I think he can find a shot on Abus early on. But we saw Abus against Bruno in round 1. Neither of them really went for anything. They were both just kind of respecting each other, not really throwing much. Abus was the one kind of pressuring, and Bruno was a little bit scared to engage, but he was just so undersized in that fight. I think he was just trying to find his reads, and he just couldn't find anything. And then in round 2, he started to let it go a little bit. Abus got hurt a little bit, and then in round 3, Abus started to grapple and kind of exposed the grappling of Bruno when he's tired, got him submitted. In this one, I think Pereira is live for an early finish, most likely a knockout. But Abus went 3 rounds with Kyle Bahalio and arguably won one of them. So, you know, this was a very tough fight for me to just give you a pick on because it's kind of like the Dan Ige Sean Woodson fight. If you watch any of my breakdowns for that one, I was like, well, it's Ige by KO or it's Woodson by decision. Now, looking back on it, after we've seen the scorecards, Woodson by decision was not going to happen because he lost the first 2 rounds. But Ige by KO did come through, even though it was a terrible stoppage. This one, it's either Pereira by round 1 knockout or some, you know, submission where he jumps on the back or jumps on the neck real quick. or it's Abus, getting his wrestling going, dragging this on, and not getting chinned later. Because like he looks fatigued. He even looked fatigued in that Bruno fight, but he was still able to battle through it, get him down to the ground, find these scrambles, and get the submission. So I'm gonna take Pereira for the pick for the breakdown, I guess. It's a very volatile fight, probably one that I'm not going to be too invested in either way, because I do respect Abus's overall skill set. He's just not a very consistent fighter, and neither is Michel Pereira. So I'll take Pereira for the early pick, and we can move on. Let's hit the chats real quick before we hop into the next one. That's a good one right there. Underdog of the week right here. Talking about Abus. Pereira by backflip. I feel like it could go either way, 100%. Under 2.5 seems like free money. Yes and no, because like if the finish doesn't occur in the first round, then I think it might get a little questionable. Both guys could be a little bit tired. Both guys could just, battle through and make it to the final bell. Pereira's a big risk taker. Yeah. Just worried about Michel Pereira's gas tank on this one. I don't think it's terrible. That's the thing. I don't think it's terrible. It's just he's not as effective in rounds 2 and 3. Like, obviously, anybody going up against Fluffy Hernandez, their gas tank's not going to look good. It's just not. It's not going to look good at all. Smell another 100X. If you smack again for 10K, what will you do? Get a DFS champion title belt tattoo. Maybe I might have to, bro. I might have to. If I hit a back-to-back 100X slips, I might have to do that, low-key. A boost. What was your thought on Ode versus Garule? My pre-fight breakdown was Ode could bonk him, but Garule probably wins by late sub or decision, and Ode bonked him. So that was kind of my pre-fight thoughts. All right, boys, I'm going to cut off the Instagram live. If you're in the Instagram live, come on over to YouTube. There's a link on my story. Join the YouTube live chat so you can get your chats read on screen. Those are the ones I really look at. But we're breaking down UFC Kansas City here with, 3-4 fights in. We're going to go through the rest of the card. We'll probably go a little bit quicker through these prelims, but most people want to know about these main card fights. So we're going to remove the IG chat. Come on over to YouTube, link on the story. IG chat is gone. Let's get back to it, boys. Randy Brown, Nicolas Dalby. All right. There we go. And Randy Brown, Nicolas Dalby. I don't know if you saw. I mean, I don't know if I should be saying this on YouTube. It might get shadow banned, but boys, I like to look at people's Instagrams to just kind of get a feel for how they're doing in life, type of thing. How their camp is going, seeing who they're training with and stuff. And I stumbled across this, boys. I stumbled across this on Nicolas Dalby's Instagram page. I might have to enlarge this, but you see that shirt, boys? Women's rights are human rights. Caption: Happy International Women's Day. As a man, I can't even start to think that I can imagine the obstacles that women and minorities face on a regular basis. I hope things are progressing, but I feel there is still work to do in order to get closer to equality. I really try to not factor in, stuff that I like, personal biases. But my God, boys, come on. How could I not look at that and be like, wow, Nicolas Dalby. I don't know what this guy, interesting cat. But I think Nicolas Dalby can win this fight. I actually think Nicolas Dalby might be a decent dog play here. But the thing is, he's getting older. And I don't like that. I don't like that because I think his speed has decreased a little bit. He got knocked down in the first round against Renat Fakhretdinov. and it doesn't come up on the official stats. But it was a very close fight, and I thought Nicolas Dalby probably deserved to win that, but it was in Saudi Arabia. So, they don't give him the decision. That would have been a 5-fight win streak for Nicolas Dalby. And Dalby just has a style that is going to make you earn the victory. You're going to have to earn the victory, or you're going to have to knock him out early. And he's just not a guy that gets knocked out. He's never been finished, never been knocked out, never been submitted. Is Randy Brown the guy that's going to knock him out in the first? Maybe. He might be able to catch him with a nice right hand like he did to Muslim Salikov, but I don't think that he really does. Nicolas Dalby's going to walk him down, try to get him into the clinch, push him up against the cage, start breathing in his ear, maybe say some weird stuff about International Women's Day and how he's sorry that Randy Brown is, having to go through all this stuff. And maybe Randy Brown gets thrown off with all the stuff that Nicolas Dalby's throwing into his ear. I think Nicolas Dalby could win this fight based on cardio, toughness, being stronger in the clinch. He's a big, thick dude. He's a big, thick dude at 170. I know he's 5'10", but the dude's back is wide as hell. He's strong. He's a dog. If you throw stuff at him, he doesn't give a fuck. He's just going to keep walking you down. He'll throw you up against the cage, breathe in your ear, say some stuff about inequality or whatever, and he's going to win. So if Randy Brown can't get out of the clinch, which has kind of been a difficulty for Randy Brown in a lot of his fights. When I look at the Brian Battle fight, Brian Battle won that fight in the clinch. Pretty much, because Randy Brown was landing majority of the significant strikes throughout the fight. Brian Battle was kind of just pushing him up against the cage and clinching him and winning those exchanges. Wellington Turman took a third round off of him from pushing him up against the cage. Randy Brown consistently goes to a 29-28 decision. And a lot of the times he's winning 29-28, but a lot of times he's also losing 29-28. I don't know, man. I think Randy Brown has probably the better overall skill set, but Nicolas Dalby doesn't really care about skill sets. He's just going to go in there, use his cardio, use his strength, and make you earn a victory by having the cardio to deal with him, having the skills to get off the cage, and outstriking him at range. Randy Brown can outstrike him at range. 100%. 100%. He's going to be faster. He's good at keeping his range. But if he falls into the trap of getting held up against the cage and worn on, he's going to tire out. Nicolas Dalby's probably going to take over. So I said this in my early picks video. Randy Brown's probably going to win round 1. Nicolas Dalby's probably going to win round 3. So it comes down to round 2. Who wins round 2? I think that's a toss-up. I think that's a 50-50. Round 2 to me is kind of a 50-50. And if Nicolas Dalby's at plus 190, plus 195. If Nicolas Dalby's at plus 195, and I'm pretty sure he wins round 3, probably loses round 1, then it comes down to round 2 where I think it's a 50-50. I think Nicolas Dalby could probably pull this one off at 40, at plus 195. So I'm kind of leaning towards Nicolas Dalby in this one, boys. Let's hit the chats. Boys, I don't know what is up with Nicolas Dalby, but that's probably one of the worst Instagram posts I've seen in a while. Watching Randy Brown last fight, how can you trust that guy with your money? I mean, he gave him a good run. He wants... Maybe that is a case. That could be the case, boys. I thought he won too, but the guy can't get off the cage. Exactly. He can't get off the cage against Nicolas Dalby. It's going to be a long night for you. Brian Battle was eating all his body shots. He was. Randy Brown was cooking him on the feet for a lot of that fight. Wins this 100%. Easy money, Randy Rude Boy Brown. I don't know. I mean, he's minus 230. I don't think I could trust Randy Brown to go out there and dominate a fight at minus 230. I just can't. I know he's probably going to win round 1, round 3, probably going to be Nicolas Dalby. So it's probably going to be a 29-28 either side. And if Dalby's plus 195, I gotta lean towards that, man. He's never been finished. Exactly. Nicolas Dalby's never been finished. Rude boy versus soy boy. Hey, the soy boy, he's got some strength to him. I gotta give him that. Nicolas Dalby, ladies and gentlemen. I gotta pull that up again. Nicolas Dalby. Come on, bro. What is this, bro? What are these comments? 6 foot and 6 foot and UFC fighter, by the way. Like he's trying to get some credit with the ladies or something. Isn't he gay? I thought he was gay. He might be gay. Or a form in the IG bots. Point spread on Dalby? What is the point spread? That's good shout out right there. Dalby plus 3.5 is minus 200. See, that should be like a red flag. That should be a red flag. Look at this. Nicolas Dalby plus 3.5 is minus 200. His money line is plus 195. That tells you it's going to be a very close fight. If his plus 3.5 is minus 200, that should scream this is going to be a close fight. So why is he plus 195? Fight goes the distance minus 220. Dalby by points plus 325. That might be a nice play. What's the split? Nicolas Dalby by split plus 900. That might be a nice little sprinkle. Plus 900. Even Randy Brown at plus 700 by split. That's not bad. Dalby round 3 sub. Yeah, no, that ain't happening. All right, boys. His wife is black? Is she? I thought he was gay, dude. Gay UFC fighter? He's probably... Come on. New question. How do they point spread and money line correlate? Well, I can tell you that the part of the reason that his point spread is plus 3.5 is, number one, they expect it to be somewhat of a close competitive fight. Number two, the fight to go the distance is minus 220, so they're expecting the fight to hit the scorecards. That's part of the reason. You know, if the fight to go the distance was plus money, his point spread would probably be a lot less, just because the possibility of him getting to the scorecards is less, but they expect it to go to the scorecards. So, yeah, that post was gay. Very true. All right, let's go on to this one. I don't really got too much to say about this one just because there's not really much to say. I mean, Ikram Aliskerov is a huge favorite. Andre Muniz, big dog. Andre Muniz, honestly, never been too impressed with his overall skill set. He's a solid grappler, but his stand-up is super stiff. It's kind of robotic. I will never forgive him for what he pulled out against Brendan Allen. The guy didn't really shoot a takedown until the 3rd round, and then he got submitted. He pretty much just kickboxed with Brendan Allen, and then he got submitted in round 3 when he tried to go for some grappling. Idiot. And then he got TKO by Paul Craig. So if you're getting TKO by Paul Craig, it's not a good look. But he did pick up a victory against Jun Park, which is cool, I guess. Pretty much just size bullied him there. 11 takedowns, landed 14 significant strikes. Pretty much Torres finied him. Just landed a bunch of takedowns with no ground and pound. Jun Park arguably won the fight. It was a split decision where Park got taken down 11 times, was held up against the cage or on the ground for 10 minutes of the fight, but still outlanded Andre Muniz. So Muniz can't do much with the takedown outside of some jiu-jitsu. He's not going to land any ground and pound. And is he going to take down Ikram Aliskerov? I think it's a pretty far-fetched idea for him to take down Ikram and sub him. Ikram's probably going to outstrike him on the feet and knock him out. So Ikram, it's going to be the pick. I don't really think we need to go into that one too much just because he's a huge favorite. We all kind of expect Ikram to go in there and get a win. If there's any differing opinions to where Andre Muniz can get this one done, please type them in the chat. But we also do have to take into account, just like Steven said, Whitaker did just start Ikram, but Whitaker's a perennial top 5 middleweight. Andre Muniz is not. So big step down. Another bad question. Can you explain point spreads pretty easily? Yeah. I'll give you an example. Here's an example. So if you took Jung Park, I don't know what this fight actually played out to be, but let's just say Jung Park, you took Jung Park plus 3.5 on the point spread. We look at these point spreads, okay? Jung Park lost the fight, but he got a 29-28 on one scorecard. It was a split decision. So pretty much if you win one of the judges' scorecards, you'll win the bet. I'm probably explaining this terribly. Let me just not show that because it'll probably mess you up. But essentially, you take the 3 judges' scorecards. Let's say it's a 29-28 across the board. The guy that lost the fight had the 28. The other guy that won the fight has the 29. So there's a 1-point difference between one judge's scorecards. If they all score it the same, that's 3 points difference. 3.5 means the 3.5, the 1/2 is greater than the 3 that he lost by. So the half gives you the win. That's why it's plus 3.5. Where it gets a little bit different is if one judge has it 30-27 for the guy that lost, and the other 2 judges have it 29-28 for the guy that won, you still cover because you got 3 points for the judge that scored it for you minus the 2 points of the judges that scored it against you. So you're still up 1, you're good. Where it gets tricky is when there's a 29-28. Let's say a fighter loses by unanimous decision. 2 of the judges scored it 29-28, and then one random judge scores it 30-27, where the guy loses. Where the guy that lost by 29-28. So there's 2 points. And then if the one judge that went rogue would have scored at 29-28 like the other judge, you would have won, but he scored at 30-27. So you lose 3 points. So now you're down 5 points. The 3.5 doesn't hit because you're over the 3.5 that was out there. So I don't know if that made any sense, but it makes sense in people's heads. It's kind of hard to explain, but there's a lot of weird stuff that can happen. Obviously, if the fighter wins by finish, if you bet the plus 3.5, then your bet cashes, but it's pretty much just the judges' scorecards thing. But if you bet the 3.5, the plus 3.5, and your fighter loses by finish, you lose the bet. I might have just completely confused you on all that, but sorry. Sorry. Let's move on. Matt Schnell and Jimmy Flick. Boys, I think the Brick Flick might be able to get this one done, eh? Basically win around and your bet cashes. Essentially. It has to be on all 3 judges' scorecards, though. And it has to make it to a decision. Matt Schnell, Jimmy Flick. In no world would I ever bet Matt Schnell at minus 300 in his current form. So I'm not going to do it here. Matt Schnell's about minus 300. Jimmy Flick's plus 250. As much shit that Jimmy Flick gets, his losses in the UFC are actually not bad. Like, they're not bad at all. He's beaten Cody Durden and Malcolm Gordon. Those are his 2 wins. His losses, Charles Johnson, really solid fighter. Alessandro Costa, who I believe is actually a very solid fighter. He just doesn't fight that often, but he is actually very, very good. And Nate Maness. Nate Maness did get cut by the UFC, but Nate Maness, I truly believe Nate Maness is a solid fighter as well that deserves to be in the UFC and would beat majority of the flyweight division. So I don't think his losses in the UFC are all that bad. Matt Schnell, on the other hand, his losses aren't bad either. Like, he's not losing to bad competition, but you've just seen a very steep decline in the guy's game to where he's getting finished every time he loses. Every time he loses, he's getting finished. And yes, that's kind of happening with Jimmy Flick in some sort of level. But Jimmy Flick's not minus 300. Okay, he's plus 250. So I'm looking at this one. I'm saying Jimmy Flick's striking, not very good. I think it's improved a little bit. But Matt Schnell, not exactly the ability to take a punch recently. Okay, so is Matt Schnell the better striker? Hands down, yes. Is the durability for Matt Schnell better than Jimmy Flick? Probably not. Probably not. So on the feet, Matt Schnell can definitely hurt Jimmy Flick, but Jimmy Flick could hurt Matt Schnell with some winging overhand right. Could definitely do that. Matt Schnell, I give him the edge on the feet. On the ground, Jimmy Flick could submit a lot of guys. So if Jimmy Flick can find a way to get this fight on the ground, he could easily submit Matt Schnell, who has been submitted many a times before. And not only is he getting submitted, he's submitting guys, or he's getting submitted with a double tap. So he's in a choke. He's not even trying to fight the choke. He's just double tapping with both hands. It's a bad look. It's a really bad look. And I got to give Jimmy Flick some credit in his last fight against Nate Maness, because Nate Maness is a tough guy to take down, really solid takedown defense. And Nate Maness kind of beat him up for 3 rounds, but Jimmy Flick never really wavered. Like, Jimmy was still looking for submissions, still moving forward, still finding some success, even though he was sort of beating up or getting beaten up. So I'm going to take Jimmy Flick here just based on the line, just because Matt Schnell's minus 300, Jimmy Flick's plus 250. And I don't think Matt Schnell should be minus 300 against anybody. So yeah, moral of the story for this breakdown is Nate Maness is the GOAT. He is the absolute GOAT. 2 tall flyweights. I'm going this week. Who's going and down to meet up? Well, getting some meetups in the chat. Hey, there's money in this fight. I don't believe it goes the distance. Well, that's probably going to be pretty chalky, my guy. Yeah, minus 350 on the fight to not go the distance. So have fun drinking that chalk. Jimmy Flick by some weird sub. Maybe he gets caught and Schnell chases him to the ground. I mean, I think it'll actually be a pretty entertaining fight. You know, Matt Schnell's never really in a boring fight. Jimmy Flick, not either. So should be a decent one. I'm just going to lean towards Jimmy Flick because he's big dog here, and I'm not trusting Matt Schnell at minus 300 against anybody. Let's move on. Evan Elder, Gage Young. So Hassan Zada pulls out, or was forced to pull out, because I don't know if he pulled out. I'm not going to say it, but you know what I'm talking about. Okay. Evan Elder. Honestly, they should have just let him fight. They should have just let him fight, because I thought Evan Elder was going to come in here and break him out. Like, break him down, beat him up, and put a beating on this guy. So probably good that Hassan Zada got removed from the fight, because he was going to get pieced up. But he's in jail now. So we get Gage Young. And Gage Young, solid fighter, man. I think the guy is solid. I think this will probably be fairly competitive, because Gage Young has a solid overall game. He's not going to get held down and like bullied on the ground. He fought Quillen killed on the Contender Series, a guy that I'm pretty high on, and he gave him a competitive fight. Like, it was a clear victory for Sal Killed. But Gage was still able to, you know, he got taken down 9 times, but he was able to get back up for majority of those. Didn't spend a lot of time on his back. And he just kind of walks forward, throws a lot, and he's hittable. But I look at Evan Elder, and I look at his Guinaro Valdez fight, which was a fight that he should have went in there and like pretty much dominated. But Valdez had some moments in it. And I think that's kind of what this fight's going to come down to. I think Gage Young's probably going to have some moments of success on Evan Elder. But Evan, I think, is a little bit better at this stage in their careers, to where he's a little bit more polished. I think he's got more of a well-rounded game. He's fought better competition. And I think Evan Elder wins. What's the line on Elder right now? Evan Elder's minus 200. That's probably about where I would price it. I would price him about minus 185, minus 200. I think anything over minus 225 is a little bit rich just because I don't think Evan Elder has a game where he's going to be separating himself from a lot of these guys unless he's finding a finish. And, he got a nice finish against Darius Flowers, but I think Flowers is a terrible fighter who just consistently gasses and gassed out heavily in that fight against Evan Elder, and Elder did not. So he submitted him in round 2. Elder's game is improving. I think I've talked to Evan a couple times in the DMs. Seems like a good guy. Seems like he's always in the gym grinding. He's still fairly young. I think he's going to continue to improve. I think this is a spot where the guy making his UFC debut on short notice might have his moments, but he's going to lose the fight. I know Gage is a Missouri guy, so it's nice for him to jump on the Kansas City card in Missouri, get his UFC debut in front of, some hometown people. Maybe he's able to rally behind that, but I don't really see it. I think Evan Elder wins this one. I'll take Evan Elder for the pick. I think he gets it done probably by decision. Gage Young's a pretty tough guy. I don't think Gage has fought the toughest level of competition on the regional scene either. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a shock in there against a guy like Evan Elder who's well-rounded. He's not really consistent with a guy like Quillen Salkill, but Salkill's another really well-rounded guy to where Gage just isn't as well-rounded. You just can't really keep up. So I think Gage has some potential. But for now, I think Evan Elder gets this one done and probably by decision. I think Gage has lots of potential, but bad matchups when it comes to the UFC contenders stages. Yeah, it's kind of tough for a lot of these guys. They get on the contender series and they get like a tough matchup. And then there's some guys on the contender series, they get just absolute bumps. So it's kind of a tough draw. Tough draw for Gage, but I think he loses. Let's move on. Gutierrez, Castaneda. I actually just hate this fight, man. I hate the fight just because I hate when fights get rebooked. Like they fall off the day before or the day of, and then they get rebooked a couple weeks, a month later, and then you just got to talk about it again. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. I guess I'm leaning towards Gutierrez just because I think he's going to be able to outpoint him at range. I think Castaneda's wrestling could play a huge factor here, but I don't really trust him to go to it as a main game plan. I think he's a guy that likes to strike with you and then mix in the wrestling here and there. But I think against Gutierrez, you got to be like full on wrestling from the jump. Because if you allow him to get into his flow state in the big octagon, get his confidence up to where he's just sticking and moving, then he's going to start to pull away a little bit. Like the leg kicks are going to accumulate their damage. Joe Rogan's going to be licking his chops. Look at that leg. Look at that leg. It's red. It's so swollen. That leg, it looks real beat up. I think Gutierrez wins this one. I'm going to take him for the pick. Hajai must have a real hatred towards Blaze versus Kuniev. Sort of. But I want to see big boy Kuniev in there against Blades. So this is a fight. I don't really care about either fighter, honestly. Neither of these guys I've really been high on. And I don't really see them going anywhere. There's not really a lot of hype behind either of these guys. So it's just one of these prelim fights that has gotten rebooked a couple times that I'm just like, don't really care, bro. It's pretty, it's close in odds too. So I don't really see a big edge either way. I think Castaneda, if he gets his wrestling going, he can win. If he doesn't, then Gutierrez is probably going to win. So I think it's a pretty binary fight in that way. Let's move on. Damon Blackshere, Alatang Haley. Smashy, if you want to look at my main event breakdown, rewind the video because we're still live. You can rewind the live. We talked about it first. We're going top to bottom, just like the chat requested. Let's talk about Damon Blackshere, Alatang Haley. Damon should win this fight. Okay, Alatang Haley, he's 5'5" with very limited striking, but he does have a good wrestling game. And some power in his hands, but he doesn't really have any jiu-jitsu to make the wrestling count. And if he looks for takedowns against Damon Blackshere like he normally does, Damon's probably going to out-grapple him. Because Damon is a big dude with some real solid jiu-jitsu. Now, the only thing that I can really think of as to how Damon loses this one is maybe it's a Montel Jackson fight where Damon goes out there looking lackadaisical, and that's kind of a common theme with Damon Blackshere. Round one, at times, he can look like he's not really in it yet. Like against Cody Gibson, he did not look good in round one. And round one against Montel Jackson, he got KO'd in 18 seconds. But there's also times in round one where he's able to get, his game going really early. He's able to submit Cody Stamen, submitted Jose Johnson, beat the piss out of Luan Lacerda. So he's kind of a wild card in the way that he approaches his round ones. So that's something you got to take into account. Haley, if he doesn't have wrestling success, he's going to get outpointed. He's so short and he has T-Rex arms, but he does have power. So that's one thing you got to watch out with Haley is he will swing. He's just not accurate, but he does have power. And if he takes you down, he's not really going to be able to land a lot of ground and pound. He's not a vicious ground and pounder guy. He's kind of a guy that has really solid wrestling. Like he has a lot of ways to get you to the ground, but he doesn't really have much in his bag to do anything once he gets you to the ground. So I think Damon Blackshere wins. I think he should be able to find a finish on Haley, but Haley does have, a lot of abilities to just kind of survive on the ground and find ways to get out of stuff. So we'll see, but I think Damon Blackshere wins this one. It's probably not one that anyone is super invested in. So I think we can move on. Let's go to Malcolm Wellmaker, where we can hit the chat real quick. Are you going to post just the underdog picks tonight or waiting for better to drop as well? I'm going to wait for better to drop. They usually drop them by Tuesday. So I got some stuff lined up where I'm looking at, and I kind of just want to see what better drops their lines on. So just so we can get the best lines. It's what we did before UFC 314. So it's a good little recipe. If I enter anything right now on underdog, they're just going to drop the lines, and I don't want to mess with the lines. So we're just going to wait. We're going to wait until we get two options to get the best lines on. Malcolm Wellmaker, Cameron Simon. I think this is the best fight on the card, or at least the best prelim fight on the card, I should say. Not the best fight on the card, but the best prelim fight, because I think Malcolm Wellmaker is a real talent. I think the guy is a real talent, and Cameron Simon's at a point in his career where he's still very young, but this is kind of a big fight for him, whether he's going to bounce back or he's just going to go on a 3-fight losing streak. And I kind of think he could go on a 3-fight losing streak because I think Wellmaker has the power to put out anybody. Like he has some real speed, some real power, and that combination is deadly, especially for a guy like Cameron Simon that leaves himself to be hit a lot throughout the fight. He is there getting hit. And I rewatched the Simon and Talbot fight. My God, that fight was a one-way beating. Like it felt like Peyton Talbot should have got charged with something. He beat Cameron Simon that badly. Like it should have been violence against a minor or something. Cameron Simon looked like a 12-year-old kid going up against, an NFL guy. Like if you put an NFL guy into a middle school practice and told the NFL guy, don't hold back, and he's just out there blowing through little kids. That's what it looked like. Blowing through little kids. Don't get Hassan Zada in here, okay? Cameron Simon, on the other hand, I think he's actually got a little bit bigger. I looked at his Instagram today. Maybe I'll pull it up right here. Cameron Simon. I think after that fight, if you don't go back to the drawing board and say, I got to bulk up a little bit, I got to get some more physicality to me, then you're doing something wrong. Because that's really the biggest takeaway I had in that one. I'll pull it up right here. Like Cameron Simon, it looks a little bit bigger in this picture. All right, shoulders look a little bit bigger. The biceps, the torso looks a little bit more filled out. He was one of those guys that kind of had a weird looking like abs. Like they look kind of like sucked in. Maybe this is just like a good picture of him, but he looks a little bit bigger. So I think that's a good sign for Cameron Simon. Okay, even here, looks a little bit thicker. Okay, he's got to get bigger for the division, and that's something that'll happen. When you get into the UFC at such a young age, you're just not as physically built as a lot of these guys, and that's what Peyton Talbot did to him. Okay, Peyton's a big 135er, and he just beat the piss out of him. So, is Malcolm Wellmaker going to do that? I think it's going to be a lot tougher for Malcolm Wellmaker to do that because he's not the same type of fighter that Talbot is. Talbot's a pressure guy with a lot of volume, and Simon just couldn't handle it. Wellmaker, on the other hand, he's fast. I think he's more of a counter striker. He's more of a sniper. But at the same time, if he's in the front foot roll, he's still effective. Like he lands some nice hard leg kicks. He's got a nice lead leg. He'll go upstairs with it. He'll go to the body with it. His hands are fast. He can knock you out with either hand, left hand, right hand. Doesn't matter. I think Wellmaker will be I actually don't think Wellmaker's going to be like a lot more physical than Cameron Simon, because I was listening to his interview today, and he said he only gets like up to like 155. So I mean, that's not really that big. I think of like Peyton Talbot. Peyton Talbot's probably minus. He's probably 170 pounds. So I don't think he's going to be able to go out there and just out physical Cameron Simon. So that gives Cameron Simon some life. But either way, I look at this one. I think Simon is more of a volume striker. And if he comes into this one and he's just throwing a lot of this blind volume that he does in a lot of his fights, I think Malcolm Wellmaker is going to make him pay with big shots, well-timed shots, and could maybe knock him out again. So I'm leaning towards Malcolm Wellmaker in this one. What are the odds right now? Pretty much a pick 'em. Wellmaker minus 115, Cameron Simon minus 105. The one worry I have with Wellmaker is his grappling game. And it's not so much that, if he gets taken down, he's a fish out of water and Simon's going to just latch up a submission right away. I think it's more so the grindy type of style. Like if Simon comes in here with a grappling heavy game plan, gets some takedowns early, and grinds on Wellmaker a little bit, that zaps his quickness, his power a little bit, and then he may not be as effective. So that's my main worry for Malcolm Wellmaker in this fight, is if Simon comes in here and grapples a little bit, tires him out a little bit, he won't be as effective. But a lot of guys have tried to do that, and he still found a way to win. Now, this is the year of the undefeated fighter losing the row. So that's always a little bit of a concern when you get an undefeated guy like Wellmaker, who's 8-0. That O's got to go at some point. I don't know that it's going to happen here. I'm going to take Wellmaker for the pick right now. But honestly, I would probably only take Wellmaker by KO. Decision equity would be a little bit out there. Let's see under here. Under's plus 150. Wellmaker by KO. Plus 350. That's not bad. That's not bad. For a guy that has that type of power, that type of athleticism, Malcolm Wellmaker at plus 350 right there. That's not bad. Let's move on, though. Jacqueline Amorim and Polyiana Viana. Not much to say on this one, boys. Jacqueline probably going to get the sub in round 1, if not round 2. Polyiana, she's not actually that bad of a fighter, but I don't really think she cares that much. She's pretty much just an OnlyFans model at this point, or an Instagram model, whatever way you want to look at it. She's not really a fighter. I don't think Jacqueline Amorim is some world beater, but if she can get takedowns on girls, she can submit a lot of them. And Polyiana Viana has been submitted before. She's been TKO'd on the ground before. And I think if Jacqueline gets her down, she's going to put the work on her and probably finish her with TKO or a submission. So that's pretty much all I got on that one, boys. Unless you want me to really dive deeper into that one, I'm pretty much just going to leave it at that. We're going a little bit long here, and there's only a couple fights left. 2 fights left If you have anything else on this one, drop it in the chat if you got any questions, but I don't really want to go into this one too much. Amorim's a huge favorite. Polyiana Viana's on her way out of the UFC, and we can move on. Timmy Cuamba, Roberto Romero. I actually think this is a good fight as well. I'm looking like, how can Timmy Cuamba put his skill set together? Because I actually think Timmy Cuamba has a good skill set, and I think he has a better skill set than Roberto Romero. But the thing is, when he gets into the cage, he kind of freezes up, or he's just like way too conservative in his approach. And on the other hand, Roberto Romero is not conservative at all. So this one to me comes down to, can Timmy Cuamba implement his skill set in a fight? If he does that, I think Timmy Cuamba wins this fight, and I actually think he could knock out Roberto Romero. Because Romero, I don't think he's the most skilled guy, but he has a lot of heart. He has a lot of pressure, and he's kind of a boxing, grindy wrestler type where he kind of wants to wear on you with a lot of weird movements on the feet. He's kind of like one of those guys in the gym. If you've ever like sparred in the gym or trained in a gym, and you get one of these guys that has like really weird movement, but they're effective with it. But at the same time, you hit them all the time. Like, you're able to hit them, but then they hit you with like 2 or 3 like slapping shots that don't really like hurt that much, but they kind of just like mess with you because they come at weird angles, and it's kind of weird. It's a weird way to get your timing. Like, you just very weird to figure out. That's kind of what Roberto reminds me of, because he kind of like rolls with everything. His head movement, it's all over the place. And at the same time, Timmy Cuamba is like one of those guys that looks like he spars a lot because he doesn't move his head. Doesn't move his head, but he keeps his range pretty well. And he's fast with his movements. So it's a very tough one for me to call because I just don't know what I'm going to get from Timmy Cuamba. If I get the best version of Timmy Cuamba, I think he wins this fight, and I think he could knock out Roberto Romero. And I see it right now. I think Timmy Cuamba, 1-2 down the middle, drops him with a right hand, or even a 3-2. His 3-2 is nice. His 1-2 is nice. And I think his range management is good. His footwork isn't the best, and that could maybe get him in some trouble here against Romero, but his footwork is good at times. And if he can set up his 3-2 or his 1-2, I think he can crack Roberto Romero with it over and over and over again. His jab is also very nice, which is going to be a big deal because Roberto is going to bring a lot of pressure. And if Timmy Cuamba can keep that jab right on his face, it's going to slow him down. It's going to start to build up. His nose is going to be bleeding. So I'm leaning towards Cuamba here. I'm leaning towards Cuamba. I actually think Timmy's defensive wrestling is pretty solid. I think his offensive wrestling is pretty solid as well. He's going up against, big, strong guys like a Belagioki, Timmy, or Lucas Almeida. Those are big, strong guys. Roberto Romero is a strong guy, but he's 5'8". He's 5'8", He's a strong little Mexican, but he's 8-4-1. I think he's very beatable at the end of the day. So I'm going to take Timmy Cuamba for this one. Smashy's saying Romero by decision. Yeet, hey jive, the dog, Goaty. Goaty dog, baby. We need that 1,000 XG. Jeez. Have I seen Viana's OF? I have not. No. Wellmaker going to body that kid. Hey jive, 100% right. Well, let's see. And the first fight of the night, ladies and gentlemen, we got Chelsea Chandler, Jacqueline Edwards. Does anyone even want me to go over this one? Please let me know in the chat. Does anyone in their right mind want to be wagering money on this fight? Anyone? Been watching for 2 years. Love you, bro. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for the love for 2 years. You've been here for quite some time. I appreciate that, my guy. Please, no. No thanks. No. Why not, says Trevor. I'll do it just real quick. Sure, why not a unit? Edwards wins. I'll do it real quick, boys, okay? Edwards is minus 300. and I can see why. Because Chelsea Chandler, she is an awful fighter. Like, she is just not good. And she doesn't throw kicks. She doesn't really shoot takedowns. She's pretty much a boxer that's not a good boxer and is like big for the weight class. And she's never even made 135. I don't think she has. Jocelyn Edwards, on the other hand, big trunk on her. Big trunk on her, which is crazy. But she is the much better fighter, in my opinion. She's better at range, uses her kicks well. Her jab is solid. Her hands are pretty nice. Her wrestling has improved a lot. And I think she should win. But it's women's bantamweight at a low level, to where if Jocelyn Edwards makes a couple mistakes where she gets put on her back and Chelsea Chandler is able to get in top position and rack up some control time that way, she could win. But I don't really see it happening. I think Jocelyn Edwards wins. Chelsea just doesn't do anything good. I think this fight really just comes down to, does Jocelyn Edwards like fall apart? If she doesn't fall apart, she wins. Okay, she should win this fight. She's the better, more overall skills to win an MMA fight. She's just got to put it together, and she can't fall apart. But do I trust her to not fall apart at minus 300? Probably not. I think you're kind of asking for danger in that aspect, but I think Jocelyn Edwards wins. All right, boys, that's going to do it for the stream. I appreciate y'all for joining. Hit these chats real quick. Watching from Argentina. Saludos. No bet in this fight. Oh, yeah, probably not. No. Chandler's best moment was getting cracked and turning around and running. True. Stop betting on women's fights since Wang Kong sold my shit. Hey, there's money to be made in women's fights, but there's sometimes you just got to lay off. But appreciate y'all for joining, boys. The live breakdown. First ever live breakdown on the channel. Maybe we'll have to do this more often, but we got her done. I'll be back throughout the week with the official picks, with the best bets video. I got to get in the lab, lock in some plays, lock in the DFS plays. Again, if you want all my bets this week, jump in the Homo Fight Picks Premium membership. There's a link down in the description below to do so. We're on a 6-week winning streak. We're almost up 40 units on the year. We've been absolutely crushing it. Hopefully we keep that going into UFC Kansas City. We had the weekend off, which sucked, but we're back at it. We got a lot of fights coming up. Should be a good time. Appreciate y'all for joining. Till next time, Hey Job Picks. We out.